And we continue at 2:07 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. I personally recommend the Buffalo Machine. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, London Breed says everybody in San Francisco wants the city to get tough on crime. And when she says everybody, she means everybody.
Whether someone has been a victim of a crime or even people who are former perpetrators of crime want to see change in this city, are willing to roll up their sleeves and work with us to do the important work that's necessary.
So the key to stopping crime in San Francisco is including the ex-cons in the fight against crime.
Even the criminals don't feel safe in San Francisco.
That I actually believe.
Otto, did you pick up what she said here at the end?
Are willing to roll up their sleeves and work with us to do the important work that's necessary.
Okay. In terms of the endless bucket of cliches, I don't even think she makes the top 5.
No, it's not Rob Bonta level, but it is worth mentioning.
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion, and this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is a pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. You can get her online at AnnCoulter.com, where you can purchase any of her books. So many of them are top of mind right now, given the news cycle, what's going on domestically, what's going on internationally. So I recommend any of them. You can also follow her on Twitter at Ann Coulter, where you can also get links to her columns and videos that she posts. Ann Coulter, welcome.
Good to be here, John Phillips. How are you?
I'm good. A little under the weather, but getting better. I'm on the upswing, as they say.
Oh, that's good. Is COVID big out there?
I tested negative for COVID, so it's something else. I don't know.
Well, you were one of the early adopters.
That is very true. All right. Well, let's start out with the breaking news, because identity politics is now just the law of the land within the Democratic Party, and I guess you could even say in portions of the Republican Party as well. Gavin Newsom certainly backed himself into a corner during the recall election when he tried to get black voters to get excited about voting to keep him in office. He went on Joy Reid's program, I know your personal favorite, over on MSNBC, and said that it would be a black woman that he would appoint to the U.S. Senate if Dianne Feinstein were to not fill out the remainder of her term. And then he said, but I don't want to upset the race, so I'm only going to appoint a caretaker, which caused heads to explode here in California. And he went back on that. So none of the elected officials in California appeared to be interested in being a caretaker, so they took their names out of the running. He panicked and appointed a woman who didn't even live in California. She ran Emily's List. She lived in the state of Maryland. She was registered to vote in the state of Maryland, and she didn't even switch her registration until after he made the announcement public. LaFonza Butler is the new senator for California. She had not yet announced what she planned on doing in terms of whether or not she would run for a full 6-year term. She came out today and told the New York Times essentially that she doesn't like the job, that doesn't fit her skill set, and she's not running. Gavin Newsom appointed a woman to the U.S. Senate who doesn't want the job. Yes.
Oh, I did not know that. And that's hilarious.
It just happened.
That's hilarious.
But why would you do that if you're Gavin Newsom? Give the appointment to someone who doesn't even want it.
Well, I'd make one small correction in what you've said, if you don't mind. I noticed everybody says this, and I think it's not really quite accurate, and that is to describe what's going on in the country today as identity politics. Very big on Fox, because they will not mention race. And that's what this is. It's anti-white Americans. black people are the Brahmin class, 100%. But we also have, third world immigrants, Muslims, Hispanics, Indians, but it is anti-white racism. It could not be a white person. So the two white people who were running, I did think it was kind of funny when Gavin Newsom appointed this woman who doesn't even live in California. That was great. No, it has to be a black woman, like Joe Biden picking his vice president. It has to be a black woman. This isn't identity politics. It's the way like Chris Rufo and the City Journal, which I like, and Fox News talk about it. You'd think like we're all out there, whites pushing for whites and Hispanics pushing for, and actually basically many other groups are. But it is not identity politics. It is anti-white racism.
And they not only excluded whites from the mix, they excluded Latinos, they excluded Asians, they excluded men. He really narrowed it down.
Post George Floyd, it is black people all the way. Turn on TV and see what's on the TV commercials. You can see who our Brahmin class is. That's what I wrote about this week. These hideous things being said about the attack on Israel. And look, I don't care if you think Palestinians have, they have their grievances, whatever. This was a shocking, disgusting, mind-blowing attack with 1,500 utterly innocent civilians. The paragliders and the trucks coming in and raping, kidnapping, murdering people. Okay, I don't need to go through what the horror was. I think everyone listening is well familiar with it. And then you have, and I couldn't help noticing, wow, a lot of overlap with Black Lives Matter. They tend to be very heavily black people in America, particularly Black Lives Matter, very heavily. I'm going to hit the legal immigrants next week. And this ultimately, this is what it's all about. That's what I mean about it not being identity politics. Western culture, I just posted a clip from my Substack of John Levine, New York Post, who's been covering a lot of this, who puts it quite beautifully. Western culture is just the most magnificent culture in the history of the world. The accomplishments in music and symphonies and plays, Shakespeare, astronomy, science, the advances, the rule of law, the Declaration of Independence. I'm sorry, it's a superior culture. And people who are not part of that superior culture, it's just pure envy and jealousy. And whether they're calling themselves, the colonized, the indigenous, and Black Lives Matter, those are the ones who suddenly they're finally getting some pushback. They must have. They've been since George Floyd. They have been able to get away with anything. Starting with, bullying their way onto corporate boards, throwing all white people out of TV commercials. No, gotta have blacks in all the TV commercials. Hiring, in many cases, not always, but incompetence in order to avoid promoting or maybe avoid hiring a white male, leading to just open shoplifting, open carjacking. No, we can't enforce the criminal laws because that has a disparate impact. On whom? On whom, John Phillips? Damn well on whom. So basically for 3 years, the BLM types and their allies, black and black adjacent, have been able to get away with anything. And now, this week, they discover they must have been shocked. Boy, we can commit murder and mayhem and push people in front of subways and we don't get arrested. We just say one little thing about Israel and everybody gets upset with you. And it is like raising a spoiled child, no matter what they have done. This has always been a problem in race relations and liberals in America. That's why in my book, one was it? Mugged, of course, about crime. The trajectory of the book is things were terrible. They're like they are right now, with white liberals patting black people on the head no matter what they did. Oh, that's a good crime. Do you want a cookie? And then the O.J. verdict came, and that just in overnight, seeing black people cheer a black murderer get away with decapitating 2 people. That it canceled the race card. It's like a subway card that expired. It doesn't work anymore. And that was the best thing that ever happened to black people in America, because suddenly you had this flourishing of actually talented black people instead of just the infantilization of black people. It was gone. And then Obama brought it back. It's mugged, racial demagoguery from the 70s until Obama. That's the subtitle of the book. And it's been going, full on like never before in the last 3 years since the St. George Floyd died. And now I think they are literally shocked that, all I said was maybe Hitler was right. Now I get fired. But that's what it is. It's all these BLM, indigenous, third world immigrants. So thanks, liberals. You guys unleashed them. You created this monster.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question now that I've asked a couple of people before, and I haven't really gotten a good answer. And that is this. We've seen on college campuses these protests in favor of Hamas, in favor of what Hamas did in Israel, the terrorist attacks and all of the heinous descriptions that you gave us. If I'm the president of that college, that is the most embarrassing day of my professional career. Whatever it is that you're teaching them on these campuses, this is what they're interpreting it to mean, which means you are absolutely failing at your job. If you're the president of a university and you have people, your students and faculty, openly protesting in favor of Hamas, how do you handle that?
Well, like I say, I think they created it, and I consider this all of a piece with defund the police. All cops are bastards. I mean, we also saw all these little darlings rushing out throwing Molotov cocktails in police cars. This is the first time liberals have minded. Is this going to wake liberals up? They created this. And as for the universities, I mean, as a general matter, I would say both universities and corporate America, shut the F up. We don't need you to have an official position. I mean, lots of big things happen all the time. I've been asked myself sometimes, have you endorsed Ron DeSantis? And I look at people like they're mad. What am I, the Republican National Committee? I'm just a writer. I like him. I don't go around issuing formal endorsements. You can tell from reading me or listening to me chit-chat whom I like. And I think it's the same way with universities. It just seems utterly pretentious. You're supposed to, your primary mission, which, by the way, I think they're failing at, but is to teach kids stuff. Teach them Western culture. They're totally failing at that. Teach them great literature and scientific advances and the scientific method and the important things that, future doctors are going to need to know, like chemistry and biology. That should be your focus. And I would say, free speech is a big part of it. It's funny that the places with absolutely the least free speech in the nation, suddenly are defending all of these left-wing, indigenous BLM. Oh, I loved one of the ones at Harvard. It was, stop mass incarceration now, and they're totally down with Hamas, and there's slaughter of innocent civilians. What do those things have in common? No, it's just always this defensiveness and jealousy from people with lesser cultures. And I'm sorry, Western Americans. Your culture is preferable. European cultures, your culture is preferable. Stop apologizing for it, because the world is just going to become one gigantic, what did Trump call it, S-hole, unless you defend the greatest culture in the history of the world.
I want to go back to a point you made because I think it's an important one, and that is, why is it that universities have to have statements on any big piece of news or any big piece of legislation or any bad thing that happened globally? Because corporations do the exact same thing. The professional sports leagues and sports teams do the exact same thing. I think the assumption is that most people who have some degree of morality look at what happened in Israel with what Hamas did, the terrorist acts, and no one's happy about it. So you don't need to put out a statement just so everyone knows.
Right. Well, we mostly saw it, in fact, with the dawn of hell in America, the Black Lives Matter movement after George Floyd died. Is there a corporation in America that didn't make some huge stance, give a gigantic donation to, maybe Ibram X. Kendi? Hope they paid attention to what happened to those contributions. I wonder. As you know, it was utterly used for graft and fraud, and the $30 million or whatever he had with anti-racism center has all disappeared. But corporate America, the universities, this isn't just do what you do. If you make toothpaste, make the toothpaste.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, they also, while they were so willing to get involved in all the racial stuff and all the trans stuff and all of the big cultural issues, they didn't fight the government when the government shut them down during COVID. You notice Disney had a whole lot to say about the trans bills in Florida, but they didn't have much to say when Newsom shut down their theme parks here, and they were operational in places like Florida without a hitch.
Yes, I think it's worth mentioning at this point that would Disney be in bad shape but for Governor Ron DeSantis, because while Disneyland was shut down, for 3 years, Disney World in Florida was up and running, and they were making a lot of money there. So, how about thanking Governor DeSantis instead of making a pill of yourselves?
Ann Coulter. You can read her online at AnnCoulter.com and follow her on Twitter at Ann Coulter. You can see her videos. She just posted some videos with John Levine, who's a writer with the New York Post, so definitely check that out. And thanks so much for stopping by. Always a pleasure.
If I could say, AnnCoulter.substack.com.
AnnCoulter.substack.com, and you can get a link to that at AnnCoulter.com, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and all over Twitter, too. Thanks, John. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, Ann. Chat soon. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, 3 o'clock is right around the corner. We go off the air at 3, but if you want to keep listening to us, you can do that.
That's right. Just go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe, or the easiest way possible, download the new KABC app. Search for KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store, and you have the easiest way to listen live to the station whenever and wherever you are, in case you're outside of the AM radio signal, and you can listen to all the podcasts of this show. You can listen to it at your leisure, whether your pants are up.
My pants are now up.
Or your pants are down.
Caught me with my pants down.
Oh, dear. The breaking news today is that California's appointed U.S. Senator LaFonza Butler has told the New York Times that she will not run for a full 6-year term in the United States Senate.
She wants to go back to her old job of telling other people to run for office.
I guess that tells you where the power really is, doesn't it? Well, she's not a candidate for the seat. We also told you earlier this program that Christina Pascucci, who is a reporter or was a reporter at Fox 11, is throwing her hat in the ring.
This is what she told Alex Michelson.
I am running for U.S. Senate.
Yeah, clap that up.
She's her own audience.
Well, she's going to have to defeat professional politicians if she is going to win a full 6-year term, which is a tall order.
Let's first hear what her big policy positions would be. If she got into the Senate, what's she want to focus on?
So we've done something with all the other Senate candidates called the 4 questions, just to get a sense of where you're at. So this is sort of rapid fire. What do you think is the biggest domestic issue?
That took a while.
Yeah. The answer should come faster than that.
Homelessness and public safety.
What is the biggest international issue you'd want to tackle in the Senate?
What's happening at our borders right now, the border crisis, which is also a domestic one, obviously, but that's something that has to be addressed right away.
And what would you...
Well, that's different.
Yeah, I like the answers. It took a while to get there, but I like the answers so far.
Oh, we're not done.
And what would you do differently on that front?
I would put way more resources at our borders to address and also have a faster path to citizenship.
What is...
Okay, so more Border Patrol and amnesty. Not liking that.
What is the Senate committee you would most want to serve on?
Foreign Relations Committee.
Why is that?
Because I think based on my extensive foreign experience, I've been to more than 100 countries, 7 continents, telling the world's untold stories, interviewing world leaders.
Why would you give that job up?
Yeah, stay where you are.
You know, most reporters are pretty well liked. As soon as you get into politics, no matter who you are, half of the state is going to hate your guts.
That's right. And even the people who like you will want your position, so they're going to say nasty things about you.
Reporting from war zones, and I have a pretty good grasp on geopolitical issues.
Who is the senator, modern senator, that you most respect or most would want to model yourself after?
What I loved about Senator Dianne Feinstein was her way in which she could reach across the aisle and listen openly to people, even if she didn't agree with them. And that's something that is sorely needed right now to a degree we've never seen before, and that's what I would plan to do.
The woman that everyone has spent the last 5 years trashing is the one she wants to be like.
Let's hear what the Scooch has to say about running against people like Adam Schiff and Katie Porter.
So you get into this race, and obviously it's a crowded field already. We've got an image of some of the other Democrats that are running that are in the House. We're talking about Adam Schiff and Katie Porter and Barbara Lee. All of them have been in Congress for years. All of them have big bases of support. All of them have already raised a lot of money. Adam Schiff has $32 million cash on hand.
Why do people keep giving him money?
Because they think he's going to win.
What is your path to victory? How do you combat that?
Yeah, well, there's a few things to say there. One, elections are a choice, and if people look at those front runners and like what they see, like how California looks right now, then maybe they're the candidate for you. They have more than half.
That's a little backhanded.
Well, she's not wrong. They're the ones that produce the government that we deal with on a daily basis.
Barbara Lee has been there forever, and before that, she was in the state forever. Adam Schiff has been there forever, and before that, he was in the state forever. Katie Porter is relatively new. You can give her that. But she's made her mark.
Mostly on her minivan.
Half a century of collective congressional experience, and this is where we find ourselves. So that's number one. Number two, I have not just thought about this overnight and suddenly decided to run. I've been thinking long and hard. I'm putting a lot on the line to do this. And
okay, what was the hit that Good Day LA sent her on that made her think, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to run for Senate?
That, for me, if I was a reporter on a morning show, would probably be going to the mall on Black Friday before the mall is opened.
I can't deal with this nonsense anymore. I'm getting into politics.
Or anything that required me to go to LAX.
Overnight and suddenly decided to run. I've been thinking long and hard. I'm putting a lot on the line to do this. And based on my vast network from reporting, from covering these important issues, and also the philanthropy I've done for more than 15 years working with underserved and foster youth, I have people who have seen my heart, have seen what I do, and are all in because they know what I'm about.
Who's bankrolling her?
I don't think she has anyone bankrolling her. She has a certain degree of name ID because she's in television, but you would need either a rich family member or you would need someone who thinks you're going to win.
So is this just an audition for a cable news show?
Well, look what happened to Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake was doing the news in Phoenix. She ran for office, came close, and lost, but now she's appearing at events with the president or the former president. She's courted by U.S. senators. They want her to go to their fundraisers. She's a fixture on television. She became a much bigger celebrity after getting off the news and running for office than she was when she just delivered the news on some television station in Phoenix. But she came close to winning. You have to come close to winning. You have to come close or you have to actually win. And I'm not sure that Christina can do that.
Well, Carrie Lake says she did win.
That's true.
So I think, when you look around, there are disillusioned Republicans and Democrats who are looking for an option they don't see. And I'm that option.
So, but in terms of performance in the Senate, what does that actually look like? Are you voting with Republicans more than you're voting with Democrats? Because you got a caucus with one team, and the Senate is kind of team.
Okay, those claps are Alex.
Yes.
You got a caucus with one team, and the Senate is kind of team. It's not like an executive.
Well, I'm a Democrat.
What's with the Morse code?
It's not like an executive.
Well, I'm a Democrat. Make no mistake about it. But when I say an independent Democrat, it's that I am going to make sure I'm reaching across the aisle. I'm talking to my fellow senators.
But not like Lauren Boebert.
Well, I don't know if that was across the aisle or just to the seat over.
I'm talking to my fellow senators to see what they care about most and how we can work together for the American people, because we're spending too much time squabbling and not enough time getting legislation done for the American people.
Well, she has brushed up on her cliches. I'll give her that.
That's true.
Let's hear what the biggest difference is between Christina Pascucci, formerly of Fox 11 and Channel 5, and Katie Porter and Adam Schiff.
If you're in the Senate compared to Barbara Lee, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, what's the biggest difference?
There's a lot of them. First off, I would say I have a fresh, bold vision for what is possible. I haven't been...
that means she has not been to Congress.
She's not jaded yet.
Haven't been in politics for decades. I want to take a new approach. I want to create bipartisanship and having a close front row seat for so many of these issues. I understand in a very real way how they impact the people of California and of this country. And there's so many simple things we can do. For example, when you look at homelessness, half of the in-house population was in the foster care system. Why are we not...
That's not accurate.
They're homeless, not unhoused, because they're mentally ill or they're on drugs.
This is not a bunch of orphans out there on the street lighting things on fire.
I don't remember Little Orphan Annie doing math.
Why are we not throwing so many resources to supporting foster youth, both early on and transitional age foster youth, who often fall through the cracks and then end up unhoused?
Isn't that more of a local issue? Why isn't she starting with the city council race?
Yeah, you'd run for local office to deal with that. All right. Well, we'll invite her on the show. Christina Pascucci is a Democrat running for U.S. Senate, and that field just got larger. Let's take a quick call here and go to Eric in Marina Del Rey. Eric, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hey, hi, John, Andy. Hey, I think this Pascucci lady's doing a Tudor Dixon. You run for Senate, you fail, you end up on her case at Fox. But I think she's running for MSNBC or CNN, and she's pretty. And that's answering Rainey's question. Why didn't she start at the bottom, say, council member or something? It's because, well, if she looked like Katie Porter, she'd have to start at the bottom, like animal control. So she's just going to run for Senate because she's pretty, and she has a chance of at least getting a gig, at CNN or MSNBC.
Well, thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Boy, that was a body blow.
Oh, boy. This audience, they like to call in and they like to blast away.
Boy, sometimes they could be tough.